Well, so what I got going on now is the front spindles for this IMOHR. I got the, of course I always forget to order crap, so I got the eccentric nut that goes in the ball joint spindle, and the washer for the bottom of it. And I'm going to show y'all how this installs on the IMOHR suspension. Let me get on the other side over here. Okay, so as y'all know, let me put this stuff down. I know you can't see me. This is the ball joint spindle. It's going to go on like this. Obviously this eccentric nut goes in right there, and you know the IMOHR's got its own camber adjustment, but so I'm going to set these probably around 0. But let me show you what I'm doing. I'm going to do the normal, you know, get these things all together. Hang on, let me, there you go. So I got that kind of in. Let me put some nuts on it real quick. Just kind of help hold everything in place. Just so I won't pop free. And the main thing I'm showing you guys really is how the tie rod connects. Because you've all done this part. I mean, it's just, you know, it's just sticking ball joints together, right? So this isn't complicated. These are 2.5-inch drop spindles. You know, luckily on the IMOHR, I've got some height adjustment. So, but here's what I'm talking about. You see this component right here? This comes off. So I can unscrew this off of the ball tie rod. So it's just a normal looking tie rod, right? It looks like a regular tie rod, except it has a hole drilled in the end of it right there to be threaded. So they threaded this hole, and it might have come that way. But what happens is if you try to do it this way, look, it goes downhill, and you're gonna get a lot of bump steer. So what this does is it lifts everything up. So this goes, I don't know if y'all can see that, this component, let me lower this some. Y'all hang on a second. Okay, I've got everything a little bit lower so y'all can see. So here's the spindle. Y'all can see that. Here's the tie rod right here, and here's the spindle hole. Let me go a little bit further. That's the spindle hole, and see, you could normally do it like this, right? Put the nut on it if that was tapered. I had this drilled out to 17 millimeter because it takes this piece right here, goes in through the bottom of it. Or maybe it doesn't. That's such a tight fit. Well, that's 17 millimeter. I'm gonna have to. Okay, anyway, so I had to clean that out just a little bit. So anyway, this is drilled out to 17 millimeter, so the taper is no longer in this. And the reason is you've got to use this piece right here that IMOHR sends, and it goes in through the bottom, like so. And you see it sticking up there. And then this piece goes on top, and then this goes in. And I actually need to, hang on. I need to tap it out. I need to clearance it just a hair more so it can spin. So what happens is, you can see this has threads in it. Threads to that. And then this locks it in place. So there's a little screw that locks it in. So that's kind of how this goes. See there? I don't know if y'all saw that. The way this works is this goes from underneath, it goes in. And then this screws into this. So it gets rid of the taper and it lifts the whole thing up. So let me clean this up a bit more. What I'm doing right now is this piece right here is the one that slides into the underside of the ball joint or the tie rod. It's a little thick. So I'm just, you know, it's too tight. And I know this is a precision, but it's not a precision component. It just sticks in. So I'm giving it a little bit of clearance because I have to be able to turn it to screw it onto the tie rod. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm just cleaning this thing up so that it'll fit without binding up so I can turn it. You know, with anything, you've got to, with all these components, you got to adjust things a little bit. So you're gonna see this go through like this, right? And this slides, it slides in. There's a little bit of a recess in there. So I'm gonna put this in. Let me get that together. See if I can get it threading, get it going. Maybe I can, maybe I can't. I don't know how. I've still got to. Okay, no, I don't have it started. All right, I got a little bit of a different angle. And you can see this right here. So I slid that piece in and then I'm just threading it on. So let me get a wrench and I'll tighten that up real quick. It's probably a 26 or 25. I've got a 27 here. It's enough to get it going. As y'all can see, I'm tightening it in. And there's a place right here I can hold it. So when I snug it down, it doesn't spin inside the tie rod. It's kind of a neat way to do it to keep the bump steer away. And you got to remember, this suspension's compressed up right now. So once I get it at ride height, this is going to have a perfectly flat edge to it. Okay, so what I got is my metric crescent wrench. And I'm gonna, it's a big one. I use this for when I'm putting on those huge AN fittings. Anyway, let me finish getting this snugged up. Or not snug, just kind of tightened down a little bit. The fun part about this is now that I've got these on, I can find out what the next problem is. Actually, I can maybe this weekend install the brakes, the front and rear brakes on for the WIlwood. I got WIlwood brakes from, as I told y'all, from Airkewld Works. That took forever to get. Not their fault. There's just a huge backlog in parts across the country, and it's just taking forever to get stuff, as y'all know. Okay, and this nut right here, that just screws in and sets everything in place. I don't know if y'all can see that. And that's a little, I'm not gonna use that on it. That'd be kind of a mistake, wouldn't it? All right, I got a 13 millimeter for that. Let me get this tightened up real quick. That ties into the bottom of the tie rod and holds everything together. So that's installed. You know, I've got to tighten up these ball joints, which I'm gonna do right now. Let me see if I can turn this. And obviously this is just real simple stuff. We're just tightening up nuts. You know, these are standard tighten them up stuff. I'm glad I went with the 2.5-inch drop spindles, because this IMOHR suspension, I think it would have had me riding it close to stock height, and I would have had to lower it down, and that would have decreased my shock track. That would have, you know, that would have changed a lot of things. Now I'm tightening up these spindles now. One of the things, or I'm tightening up the ball joints. One of the things I like about drop spindles, like I was saying, is it maintains the steering geometry, because when you raise or lower, you know, other than with the drop spindles, some of the geometry changes, and that's not a bad thing. I'm just saying it's one more thing to deal with, and you don't have to deal with that when you got the 2.5-inch drop spindle, because the geometry, everything stayed the same. You don't have to worry about, you know, getting bump steer, or you know how that goes when you are trying to do something maybe the less expensive route and it doesn't quite work out, because you lower the car, and next thing you know, you start having all these other problems. So the good thing about like a drop spindle is, let me center that. The good thing about a drop spindle is it alleviates all that stuff. Yeah, I've got a ratcheting 19. Let me get it. This is annoying. And we'll just snug it up. The good thing is I've got, let me get this down. I'll talk some more. I'm just getting this tightened up, this ball joint. The upper with the eccentric, that big eccentric nut thing. Getting it snugged up. Let me get my, I've got a special wrench I bought for the eccentric nut. It's a 36 millimeter. I got this off, and I painted it blue so I can find it easy. I got it off Amazon. It fits this eccentric perfect. You know, and that way you don't have to mess with it quite as much as far as trying to find the right wrench, because it's typically a pretty narrow slot in there to get everything in. It's never real easy because there's not a lot of space. But this gives you room to kind of do what you need to do. I've got that kind of set. Well, not really set, but I got it kind of positioned where I want. And you also have to kind of watch when this is center nut. There's a big hole that it goes into, and sometimes it can get in there kind of cockeyed. So you have to make sure that it's kind of seated evenly all the way around. I had that happen on my Baja, and luckily I found the problem after in pretty short order, and I didn't have any front end problems. But just be sure that you double check it. There you go. Got that done. Let me get the close up and show y'all. All right, so here's what we got. This is the spindle assembly. This was the eccentric I'm talking about, and that's that eccentric washer. I had to order those. They came in from J-Bugs. Obviously, you set camber with this, but also these have camber adjustments. So I'm going to end up setting this at about 0, or it might be set at 0, and I might be able to just adjust with this. So we'll see, when we get to that part. But here's how that bolts up, and let me show you the tie rod assembly real quick and how that goes together. It's real simple. See it? This piece, remember I drilled this out. I drilled out the spindle arm to 17 millimeter. I had to clean it up a little bit because this piece was a hair over, so I kind of just sanded it till it fixed. You have to be able to spin it. The tie rod goes through here, down, this screws onto the tie rod, and then this screws into the tie rod to secure everything. So what's gonna happen when this is sitting on the ground, I'll have the proper geometry for that. If y'all been seeing this wagon, this is the wagon you're gonna see on the second channel. I'm doing a charity drive for Autism Speaks. I'm 1,000 miles in this piece of junk in the summer along the coast in the heat. AutoZone's donating all the parts to get it fixed. Discount tires, donated tires, and we're doing the bare minimum, not fixing it up, just getting it barely roadworthy. But let me show you something. I've got to pull the engine out this weekend because it's frozen. When I got the car here, I found it was locked up. Had to go all the way to Virginia. I flew to Pennsylvania, 20-hour drive back. Guy gave me a motor that runs. I hope it runs. But this is the car, and if you watch on the second channel, you will see all the stuff I've been doing on this. The first videos for this are gonna air, I think April 10th, because April 10th, April starts Autism Awareness Month, so this is an Autism Speaks car. So April 10th to start the videos of this from when I drag it home. You would not believe the amount of crap I got out of this car, all the way to getting it ready, rebuilding the brakes, then trying to drive it 1,000 miles. And once we get it to, we're going to Orlando. Once we get it to Disney World, we're gonna auction the car off, and all that money goes to Autism Speaks. So I just thought, I know a lot of y'all see this car in the background, and that's kind of what's going on, is working on that. And this is, of course, is my daily. I love this car. It's I've got an STI motor in it, WIlwood 2-piece rotors front and back. I've got it tuned to about 300 horsepower and 300 torque to the wheels. It could go more, but the 5-speed in these just simply can't handle it. But an absolute fun car to drive, so thank you. All right, y'all, so on this piece right here, this bracket is with a WIlwood kit, and it goes over like this. It's kind of angled. I've got a motor in the way, so it's kind of hard to show y'all. It's kind of angled like this. Alrighty, let me get this. So this kit came with, hang on. This kit came with some Loctite, which is really cool of them, because most of these kits, as you know, they don't. They don't come with Loctite. It looks like it's kind of like a Loctite gel, which makes me even happier. It's red Loctite, so it's gonna be on there. This simply goes until the bolt holes line up. Get one started. They got written instructions. I'm kind of a visual person, and I read the written instructions and never can quite seem to make heads or tails of them. So I'm making this video, and hopefully you guys that are kind of like me, that like, man, I can read it all day, but it sure is easier to learn if I see someone doing it. Well, now you can kind of see someone do it, and I'll probably make a few mistakes, but that's just the way life goes. I make mistakes every day. This one doesn't want to go in. Let me make sure it's not, it looks cross-threaded. Hang on. That's the last thing we want to do, right? In a spindle is cross-thread anything. Oh, it's not cross-threaded. It's just kind of, probably has a little bit of a burr on one of the threads. So let me get these in here. As you notice, I'm putting this bracket on first, because if I don't, I can't get the spindle on. And then after this, we'll get the spindle on. They got a bag full of hardware that's got all the nuts and washers and bolts and stuff like that. It's got some instructions. I'm not going to read them until I get so confused I have to. Well, I mean, honestly, most of the stuff is kind of common sense. Some of it's not. Some of it's not common sense. Some of it is, you need to follow the directions for it to make sense, but I'm going to try it this way. Okay, I got that bracket on. I got this, I got the brake rotor. Obviously, it's pretty simple. You just slide it on, then you knock all the bearings out when you do it. So here's the story of my life. It seems like every time I install a part, I have to order something else, because either I forgot to order it or it wasn't in the kit that I thought. So on the air-cooled brakes, on the rear, it comes with the spindle nut, the castle nut and all that stuff. On the front, it doesn't, or at least it's not in my kit. So, and I don't have any, so now I gotta order the little washer with the thing, and I gotta order the nut. But let me show you kind of what it looks like now installed. Well, it's just kind of sitting there. It's not actually like, okay, so story of my life. It seems like, let me turn around a little bit. Anytime I order something and I start installing parts thinking, I'm gonna put the disc brakes on tonight, there's always something, right? So I've got the Airkewld Works disc brakes. I just showed y'all, I put them on. It didn't come, or at least my kit didn't come with the washer and the spindle nut to hold it together. It came with the caps. And what's weird is the rears came with the flange nuts, the castle nuts, and the cotter pins. I'm gonna dig around some more, but that's what normally happens. So now I gotta order this stuff. I gotta wait another week, but that's just the way it goes. Well, the great thing about buying parts online is plans always change. I had planned on putting in the bearings, and I've got 930 stub axles for this thing. I was planning on putting all that in this morning, and they sent me everything but the bearings and the seals. So I've emailed them so I can get this stuff done. So that was kind of the plan for today. I didn't install this pan. I just set it here to use it as a shelf. So what I'm going to do today is two things. On the other channel, you'll see I'm going to power wash this nasty car. And then on this one, I've got to do some work on the rear pivot arms, and I'll show you, where they, if you're not familiar with VWs, both pivot arms have a pivot location on the torsion bar. And on one side, I did it right with the bushings and the washers, and I guess totally forgot to do the other side properly. So I'm going to pull this in, get that fixed up, and then I've got to pull the brakes off of this thing. They're locked up, or one of them are, and see what kind of parts I need for it. And it is, I don't know if you go on the other channel, I'm doing this for a charity drive for Autism Speaks, and the cleanup video you're gonna see is unbelievable. We got over 300 pounds of crap out of it. So I'm gonna do that today too. So let me get, oh, I bought a power washer from Harbor Freight yesterday. It's electric, 2300 PSI. I hate having gas equipment in the garage because I don't use it enough. And then I have problems with it. So with this, it may not be, 10 billion PSI, but it's gonna be enough for me. So I'll be trying that out today too. All right, just so y'all see what's going on, ouch, under this car. Let me reverse this camera. All right, this is the pivot arm right here, and this is the pivot point. This is the torsion tube on this Baja. You see how that's all shifted out of whack, and that's where I'm getting on my rattling noise because I forgot to put all the parts in. There's supposed to be two big washers here. So I've got to pull this nut out. It's a big Allen, socket head or whatever you want to call them. I got to pull that out, and the way it works in my mind, I'm just gonna pull that out, put the big washers in, stick it all back together, and obviously that's not, it never goes that way. So more than likely, after I spend time doing what's not gonna work, I'm gonna have to start taking the wheel off, the tire off, so I can manipulate this arm around and get it done. So let's waste some time. All right, so anyway, so this is how it looks. Mine looks. I'm missing my washers here. Let me show you how it's supposed to look. We go this other side. Y'all see that one? It's got the bushing, two washers. Everything's set up nice. And I forgot to put the washers in here. I wonder what that damn rattling noise is. Now I know. So that's what happens when you ADD, right? As y'all can see, I don't get much turn on it. So I have no idea if y'all can even see what I'm doing. I'm gonna pry these. I'm gonna pry that in. This is kind of where my lazy gets me. You'll see, y'all can see that right here. Whoops. I got to get this bolt in, and which means y'all can see I can move the pivot arm because I got that loose, but it's got to go back this way some, and instead of doing things the right way, I always try to take shortcuts. So I gotta lift it up and push it back at the same time, which I'll jack around with for 15 minutes. And y'all are probably thinking, man, this guy's an idiot. Hey, y'all could be right, Ouch. And I got a bad wrist. Not a bad wrist. My left wrist, man, I got a big old bump on it, and I don't know, I was reading online. Yeah, I Googled that crap. I was ganglionic cyst or something. But I went to the VA. He's like, well, it could be an arthritic tumor. I'm like, a tumor? He's like, no, they're not cancerous, dude. They'll sometimes pop up, and we just remove them with surgery. So I had to go to the VA next week and have it evaluated. All right, I'm gonna put this socket in there with the Allen head on it, and I'm gonna get my super traction action gloves on, And I'm gonna get my vice grips and see if I can tighten it. And what I'm gonna do is I only gotta tighten it a certain amount. And then once I've done that, I can get the socket, the ratchet on it. Please be going in. Please be going in. Please be going in. Please be going in. I don't know if y'all can see. Come on. Arm in the way. But guys, this looks like it's going in. Alright. It's starting to go in. I think what I got to do now is get this arm up out the way. Oh, let me get it. Let me see if I can get this arm up out the way. Right here, if I can get these, all this kind of, at least a bolt holding it. That way, take some of the weight off of me having to hold it up in the air. Get in there. I talk to this stuff. I think I have a better chance of speaking Chinese to it than I do speaking English to it, but whatever. You know, the way I look at it, I would buy, you know, All American if I could find All American. Problem is, I can't. And not because I don't want to, is I just, some stuff there just isn't around. You know, some things that just, like certain parts, like for Volkswagens, you know, these are still made all over the world where they used to be. Longest produced vehicle, I guess, 10 kabillion jillion of them. And because of that, there's a high parts demand. Because of that, it's pretty competitive. And because of that, a lot of times, American companies just simply can't manufacture it anywhere even close to the same price. You know, I could understand if it was reasonably close, but some of this stuff is like crazy difference. You know, and so, yeah, of course I want to buy American, but sometimes I can't. My overalls I got on right now are American made overalls, and I've always liked overalls, but I've always just bought, you know, I've always bought like, let me get out of the sun. I've always bought like, you know, whatever they had at Walmart. Hey, there's that damn washer. Whatever they have at Walmart or whatever. So I watch a lot of YouTube shows, and I like Mr. Patina Head's pretty cool. He didn't put out many shows, but he's pretty cool. Home Built by Jeff. I love that show. I like Super Fast Max. He's funny. One of my favorites though is Puddin's Fab Shop. And on one of his episodes, he was wearing these, see if I can find that, Roundhouse brand. He's like they're American made overalls. I was like, what? So I go to the Roundhouse site. Sure enough, American made. And I was figuring, okay, they're gonna be like 120 bucks as they're American made. They're like 49 bucks, you know, and really good ones. So yeah, so see, I buy American when I can, but some things I just can't get. I can't get a lot of parts for this car I'm building here. A lot of parts for building this car, I've had to rely on, you know, EMPI. And that's, a lot of that's Chinese stuff, but some of it's been pretty good. Some's been kind of hit and miss, right? So anyway, let me get back into the car here. Hey, thanks for watching. In my upcoming video, probably in about 2 weeks, I will be doing an alignment on this. I'll show you how to do an alignment in the garage. There's some very, very simple stuff. Also, y'all get to watch me battle this stuff right here. These WIlwood brakes are great from Airkewld Works. Not so great on, well, they work fine on the IMOHR front. The IMOHR rear is a different story. The rotor brackets or the caliper brackets don't fit. I'm gonna have to custom make some brackets. These don't fit in that. It's different hub centrics, different, oh my God. So a lot of parts made. So next video, you'll see all this stuff get fixed and get installed.